Hey everybody, welcome back to Race of History. Today we're getting into part 5 of the Hannibal series by History March, Battle of the Ebro River. Let's get into it.
Early in 217 BC, the Roman Senate is still reeling from the defeat at Trebia. But, determined to strike back at Hannibal, they look to other theaters to try and shift the balance of war. The Roman army that was initially sent to stop the Carthaginian general from reaching Italy is now in Iberia with new objectives, under the command of Gnaeus Scipio. After first arriving in Iberia in early autumn of 218 BC, Gnaeus Cornelius Scipio Calvus defeated and captured Hanno along with thousands of Carthaginian troops. He also seized the rich baggage train that Hannibal left behind when he marched into the Pyrenees Mountains while on his way to Italy. But despite this victory, Gnaeus lost many of his ship crews during Hasdrubal Barca's raid into the Roman enclave, which crippled his fleet. Luckily for the Romans, Hasdrubal was outnumbered 2-1, and he retreated soon after this minor victory,
Yeah, that's going to be one of the major issues here, is everywhere Hannibal is not, the Carthaginians are having major problems.
He could not mount a full-scale offensive. Both generals used the winter months to regroup and plan for the coming year. The Roman general's main objective is to prevent Iberian reinforcements from reaching Hannibal by land. His second objective is to put pressure on Carthaginian holdings in Iberia by any means. From his base at Tarraco, Gnaeus spends months consolidating his position. He reaches out to various tribes to establish friendly relations through diplomacy and trade, and looks to broker alliances by offering the tribes protection against the Carthaginians. It doesn't take too long to persuade many locals to join the Roman cause, because just as most Gauls in Italy hate the Romans, so too the tribes of northern Iberia despise the Carthaginians.
Yeah, that's basically what Scipio's doing here is exactly what Hannibal's doing in Italy. He's gathering alliances to try to turn all of these sort of friendly tribes that are under the boot of the Carthaginians here in Spain against them.
And although many communities are still apprehensive about confronting Carthage, especially those on the border, tribes further north of the Ebro eagerly ally themselves to Rome. Gnaeus also strengthens ties with the Greek cities, especially Massilia, a very prosperous city that commits to sending her experienced fleet to help the Romans. And, as promised, Gnaeus detaches garrisons to defend his allies over the coming months. He also garrisons the Ebro River, anticipating an invasion by Hasdrubal Barca in the spring, and arranges the purchase of food and supplies from the locals. In addition, he distributes the plunder taken from Hannibal's baggage train to his army, which boosts his popularity with the troops. Across the Ebro, Hasdrubal Barca posts garrisons along the river to ward off Roman raids, and marches back to his winter quarters in New Carthage. Hasdrubal currently has 15,000 troops at his disposal. But the manpower reserves and the riches of Carthaginian Iberia give Hasdrubal enough muscle to quickly respond to the Roman threat. He spends the winter months resting his army, raising funds for new recruits and stockpiling provisions for the upcoming campaign. Ships are repaired and additional ships are brought in, along with new ship crews, recruited mainly from the Turdetani tribes in southern Iberia. By spring of 217 BC, Hasdrubal musters a large enough army to mount an offensive against Gnaeus. Carthaginians march out of New Carthage. Hasdrubal personally leads the ground forces, while he puts the fleet of 40 ships under the command of Himilco. The fleet sails along the coast, closely keeping pace with the army on land, under whose protection the crews can beach their ships every night to rest. While Hasdrubal initially had 15,000 troops after Hannibal departed from Iberia, it is unknown how many new troops he recruited for the campaign of 217 BC. But, considering that Gnaeus received reports from his scouts of the approaching Carthaginians, and yet didn't follow his first instinct to face them in battle, it is safe to assume that the size of Hasdrubal's army was exceedingly strong, which dissuaded the Roman general from giving battle.
What do y'all think here? Is this the right move for Hasdrubal to be going and attacking Rome, or should he be on the defensive? Is the best overall strategy just to keep the Romans at bay in Spain and let Hannibal work in Italy, or should they be on the offensive on all fronts?
Furthermore, Hasdrubal could potentially tap into his vast manpower pool, while Gnaeus won't be receiving any reinforcements for at least a year. Another reason for the Roman general to remain cautious. Gnaeus decides to march out of Tarraco and take up a defensive position on the Ebro, with his ships following close by. Aware that the Carthaginian fleet can flank him and cut his supply lines, he handpicks his best troops from the legions and loads them into 35 ships, some of which came from Massilia with their experienced and reputable crews. With his fleet guarding his flank, the Roman general reaches within 15 kilometers of the Ebro. Gnaeus' plan is to concentrate his efforts on the sea. He temporarily stops and sends 2 Massilian ships to scout ahead. With his army vastly outnumbered, he recognizes that if Hasdrubal successfully surrounds or besieges his position, the superior Carthaginian fleet could cut off Roman seaborne supply lines. Therefore, his plan is to deal a knockout blow, or at least cripple the Carthaginian fleet. Massilian scouts soon return with reports that the Carthaginians are encamped at the mouth of the Ebro, their ships still beach and unmanned since the night before. Looking to seize the fortunate opportunity, Gnaeus gives his ships the signal to attack immediately, hoping to catch the enemy off guard. They make haste towards the Ebro, formed in 2 lines. The higher quality Massilian ships are in the front, their crews leading the way, while the Roman ships are formed up behind them. However, Carthaginian scouts along the coast spot the enemy fleet and sound the alarm. Hasdrubal draws up his land forces on the beach and orders Himilco to embark his crews and put to sea straight away. The Carthaginians, although caught by surprise, have confidence in their ships. Hasdrubal's troops cheer on the crews as they close the distance to meet the Romans. 2 Massilian ships are intercepted. Himilco's men rush to board the enemy vessels. On the right flank, Carthaginian ships double up on the Romans. As they board the enemy, Himilco's crews begin overwhelming the Massilians and Romans on the right. Meanwhile, chaotic fighting spreads in the center as the Romans latch onto several enemy vessels. Gnaeus' men are firmly on the back foot and losing ground. The Carthaginians outpaced and outmaneuvered his fleet. But the battle-hardened Roman troops in the center hold their ground. Disciplined and organized, they slowly manage to turn the tide by sheer brute force. The legionnaires begin pushing the Carthaginians back. In the chaotic fighting, they manage to sink 1 Carthaginian ship, together with its entire crew, then another. Some of Himilco's men begin to waver. 4 more ships in the center are crippled and left adrift with their oars shattered. Seeing the gaping hole in their line, panic among some of Himilco's crews turns into a hasty, disorganized retreat toward the shore. Hasdrubal can only watch as the Romans vigorously pursue his fleet. His troops can do little to help the retreating ships. Ironically, having his army deployed on the beach offered a clear and safe escape route for the ships, which may have motivated some of the crews to flee rather than fight and risk death. This would certainly explain the sudden collapse of morale amongst Himilco's men. The Carthaginian fleet finally reaches the shore. Crews beach their ships and hastily disembark, abandoning their vessels in search for safety within Hasdrubal's army. But the Romans aren't done yet. They boldly continue towards the shore, despite the risk of running their ships aground or being attacked by Hasdrubal's troops. To the average observer, it must have seemed like madness to come so close to the shore. But Gnaeus is willing to take the risk. His ships rush in, quickly latching onto Carthaginian vessels that are still seaworthy, and begin towing them away.
Yeah, the move there was for the Carthaginians to actually threaten the Romans, instead of just letting them take the ships.
Seeming stunned, the Carthaginians fail to react in time. By the time they realize what has happened, the Romans sail downstream, having captured 25 of their ships. At first, the defeat at the Ebro seemingly changed little. Over the coming months, Hasdrubal, with his army intact, puts pressure on the tribes to rise against Rome, stretching Gnaeus to the limit. But the Carthaginian general is also forced to deal with revolts in southern Iberia. Both sides spend over a year quelling revolts and regrouping. For the Romans, after a series of defeats suffered against Hannibal in Italy, news of Gnaeus' success is much welcomed by the Senate. Encouraged, they make plans to send reinforcements to Iberia under the command of Gnaeus' brother Publius, whose term as consul ended a few months ago. Fully recovered from his wounds, within a year Publius would arrive with 20 to 30 ships and 8,000 troops, along with food and supplies. However, it is Gnaeus' perseverance at the Ebro that would prove to be the turning point of the war in Iberia. For the next 10 years, the Carthaginian Iberian coast would be undefended, exposed to Roman.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. They lose one seemingly insignificant battle, and now the coast is undefended. It's really kind of crazy.
Raids. Carthage will have to divert a lot of manpower to defend its Iberian towns and countryside. And over the coming years, the Scipio brothers will pose a serious threat to the Carthaginian war effort. Credit goes to our awesome patron.
Okay, so that was Hannibal Part 5, Rome's Greatest Enemy. I will get to the next one tomorrow. These will be coming out very quickly throughout the start of this next week and into this next week. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.